it's also important for entrepreneurs to hear, I hear all the time that they just, they let go of everything they were doing before and they jumped into this brand new career. I actually have a very different strategy. I literally have two careers happening simultaneously that I'm having to balance. And they're both actually, one is serving the other. And it actually gives me a lot more confidence in my ability to pursue film because I feel like I haven't just thrown everything away, all that hard work.
Welcome to Unlocking Moves, where we want to take you inside those key pivotal moments and decision points that really change the lives of successful entrepreneurs and leaders. And I love to hear their stories because I think we learn the most from stories. But I don't want to hear just their glory stories. I want to hear their gory stories because, as I like to say, the bigger the shit show, the bigger the lesson. I am pumped to have my good friend Kit Rich on today's episode. Now, you might ask, who is Kit Rich? Well, Kit is the fitness guru for the stars, and she's been recently debuted her first film, Isabel's Garden. But before we get into the details, Kit, I like to ask my guests a question, an off-the-wall question or comment to really keep them on their toes, keep my audience on their toes. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
All right. So you train some of the most recognizable stars in Hollywood and in the US. You've been doing it for 16 years. Earlier today, I asked you a question. I said, Kit, please come prepared to talk about some divas or some pain in the ass clients, something like that. And you said, and I quote, Kurt, I've got no diva stories. Everyone is so nice. To which I say, 16 years, Hollywood, hashtag you are so full of shit. Tell me some stories, Kit Rich.
Everyone loves to believe that the people in Hollywood are the worst people in the world. And I'm sure there are really bad ones. I just haven't trained them, I swear. And this isn't just because I signed NDAs, which is true for many of them. But the truth is that in my personal experience, the higher they are on the chain, especially if they're women, the cooler they are. There's a reason that they're there. And they deserve to be there. So in my experience, honestly, I have dealt with no divas, and they've just been really kind to me. I will say this though, I'm in a specific, as their trainer, in a very specific role. It's a very vulnerable role. I'm taking care of their bodies. So it's almost like a therapist. So I create a safe space for them to tell their truths about how they feel about their lives, what's going on, their bodies, work. And so because of that rapport, I don't get the diva side of them, if that exists.
There you go. Everyone knows that Hollywood women are nice, or at least to their trainers. So thank you very much. We've just dispelled a myth.
I'm sorry it wasn't juicy. I know that's really annoying, but it's my truth.
Hey, that's all right. We're here for authenticity. So as you can hear, my guest today is Kit Rich. She is the fitness guru to the stars for over 16 years in Hollywood. She's trained some of the biggest names, and she's also been following her passion recently, where she's written some plays, and most recently, her film debut, Isabel's Garden, which received her the Best Director at the LA Film Festival. And Isabel's Garden was shown at the very prestigious Cannes Film Market. So I'm very excited to have Kit Rich on today's episode of Unlocking Moves.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Kit, you're special because you're an alum. Back in 2020, you were on a predecessor podcast to Unlocking Moves called Survival and Thrival, and you helped so many people get out and get exercise, get some fresh air during COVID. So thank you very much for that.
Well, that was very cool. I loved that opportunity. It was great to meet you and other entrepreneurs in different spaces, and to see that even though we're all in different fields, we all kind of have similar struggles, and the struggle is real.
The struggle is real. No truer words can be spoken. I could promise you that. So, hey, listen, you've trained, as I said, some very successful people, including, and I think I can say this because it's on your website, Jennifer Lawrence and Kesha. Did I say that right? Kesha. Kesha. That shows you how old I am.
Do you have daughters?
I have sons, and I'm not very popular.
Okay. I was about to say, your daughters would be so disappointed in you right now. No, Kesha.
There you go. Hey, we're going to make sure that stays in the episode because we got to be authentic. So Kesha, Your YouTube channel has over 133,000 subscribers. Your Instagram has over 21,000 followers, and your work's been featured in Shape Magazine, the Today Show, and Vogue. And you've worked with such brands as REI, Dick's Sporting Goods, and Jeep, among many others. My question for you is, what makes you so popular?
First of all, as you were just reading off my resume, I'm like, I sound great. Because oftentimes I don't feel that great. What makes me so popular? That's a kind question. I think what makes me popular is that I don't think in those terms. I really am all about just doing good work. I have basic principles. You show up on time, you give whatever you're doing, you give your 100% focus to that situation, and you do your very best, and you stay humble. And that humility, I think, is what has carried me through. I have to pinch myself a lot that I've been put in certain situations because I know that it's not normal, to travel the world with clients. I've been on for about good 10 years. I was traveling in and out with clients on tour for movie roles. And I got to be really close and personal on movie sets and, in music venues and seeing what these A-list artists were doing behind the scenes, and to get to witness their artistry and how they moved in the world was a really, really privileged position to be in. And I know that. So
I
yeah, so
love
that
I love that, Kit. And if I may, I want to come back to where you started, and that was for my audience to know: show up, be on time, be authentic, do your job, great things happen. You're not trying to sell somebody, show somebody, be somebody you're not. Show up and be authentic.
I don't give false promises too. There's a lot of people out there that they're like, if you do this, guaranteed this is going to happen. And I don't know, doing it as long as I have, I can't make those promises. All I can say is the one thing I know to be true is that consistency works. And so as true as that is for work, it's the same thing for marriage. It's the same thing for fitness. Consistency works. So if you're just wanting to go super hard for a month, you're just not going to get the results. But if you're looking to have a relationship with fitness, and if you can stand me 3 times a week, 4 times a week, then we're going to stay consistent, because a lot of it has to do with the person has to like you and they have to trust you. And so I don't give false promises.
Now, wait a minute. Now, I'm expecting some pill I can take to get in shape and get six-pack abs like all the Hollywood folks. You're saying it takes work? That's bullshit.
Well, apparently Ozempic is doing a great job of taking over my role here, but not to knock it, but yeah, it's pretty annoying that there's no quick fix.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that
Okay.
actually lasts a long time.
I was hoping that was going to be your secret to popularity, is you had a silver bullet. I could, watch a couple of YouTube videos.
Well, no, I think is what I can say is that my routines work. They are effective, but that's science based. I'm not a genius in that way. I just do what I know works. And I think that it has something to do with within any entrepreneurship. It's about who you are and what you bring to the table, your unique style. And if my messaging and how I move in the world is connecting to someone and that makes them want to stay consistent with me, I think that's the magic bullet, really.
I love it. You're just being who you are and being your most authentic and creative self. Beautiful. So let's get into your backstory for a second.
Okay.
You've been doing this for 16 years, as I said, and I got to hear a little bit of what drew you to that, because surely you didn't move to LA to be a fitness guru. Tell me a little bit about the backstory.
Well, actually, I was born and raised in Los Angeles,
Oh
and
man.
what's so funny is when everybody meets me, they're like, "Wait a minute, I thought you guys didn't exist." There are so many of us that were born and raised in LA, and actually, we had a very normal childhood. It's usually the people that move to LA that put like a stigma on it, and then they put on this cloak of what LA should be like, and they act that way. But those of us that were raised here were completely normal. But yeah, when I graduated from college, University of San Francisco, I moved back home with the intention of being an actress and a writer. So I did what most actors do. I started waitressing, and I did that to make a living, but I couldn't get any headway. I was getting a lot of rejection. I did a few things here and there, but I think in my early 20s, I just didn't have the confidence to not take no for an answer. And I really let that get to me. And what ended up happening is I went into this deep depression, and I started drinking a ton and staying out really late and just having no direction in life. And I think about 2 years into waitressing, I walked into a Pilates studio, and the woman thought I was an instructor, which was really weird because nothing about me screamed teacher or something that would say, yeah, you should be guiding me in life, you know? But I took that as a sign and I thought, well, that's at least one step to having a healthier lifestyle. And then when I committed to it, it was really interesting because my life kind of just took off in that direction. Uh, Really quickly, my classes just started filling up months in advance. Next thing I knew, I was getting phone calls from assistants hearing about that I was really good and they wanted me to train their A-list clients. I will say in my career, assistants are crucial. Assistants are the ones that create the jobs and they're the ones that make the contacts. And I'm so grateful to all of those assistants. And they're the ones that also tell other assistants about who their clients working with. And so that's really how you get the word of mouth in my experience. But so that's what happened. And the next thing I knew, I was building a brand. I was traveling the world. I was getting press organically.
Hey, Kit, before you go on, because I want to hear this part of the story too, but can I come back and reflect on a few things you said?
Absolutely.
So number one that I heard was you showed up and did your job, just like we talked about earlier. You didn't necessarily befriend the assistants, but you were kind and gracious to the assistants and they provided you work. So a lot of people who are demeaning to people who aren't in charge, maybe take that as for some advice. Let's be nice and be kind and gracious to the people that serve those folks.
That's the thing, is the assistants are doing such hard work. They're basically making sure that everything's run like a machine. And it's their job to find the best of the best for whatever's needed. And it's not an easy job. I wouldn't treat anybody with disrespect, no matter where they worked or what they were doing. But you also have to always remember that assistants usually change jobs at some point. You never know, they might be the one running the show at some point. So always keep that in mind, that that assistant, they might become the person that you work for. It's very possible.
That's great. I often tell my team and I tell people, our clients, pay attention to the people, candidates, as they walk into a client's office. If they're demeaning or rude to the assistant or the receptionist or somebody at the front desk, that tells you who they are. And
I say the same thing about I say the same thing about when servers. I was a waitress. I'm never mean to a server because I know what it's like to be in that situation. I know how hard it is, and it says a lot about a person when you're mean to someone, to a waiter or waitress. It says a lot. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. If you're just joining us on Unlocking Moves, today's episode is brought to you as usual by Hire Better, the strategic talent partner for growth-minded entrepreneurs everywhere. Okay, so now you're traveling around the country, around the world.
Yes, but I've given up on my writing, and that's kind of, it's embarrassing to say, but it's true. I just didn't think I had what it takes. And so what I started to do though was write essays. And so while I was on tour buses, I would write essays, and I oddly enough started getting published in that way first. The LA Times, Self Magazine started taking my stuff. And then from there, I ended up writing a play. And that play, called See You Maybe, did very well. But it did very well, but I also had a lot of criticism. And again, I think I was just a little too insecure. I feel, as I'm saying this, I'm like regretting even saying this, because I feel like most entrepreneurs come into these things and they're like, you just don't take no for an answer and you keep pushing. And that's just not my story. My story is that I did take no for an answer. My story is I let those people's opinions of me win. But ultimately, I feel like I came back to it. So I stopped writing after the play because I felt like I was a terrible writer. I couldn't stand how people felt about it. I thought that it was another reflection on that I just shouldn't be doing it. And so I threw myself back into the fitness arena full time. So from there, I started
Hold on one second. I'm sorry, but I gotta come back to this. So many entrepreneurs have what we call imposter syndrome, where we don't think that we truly deserve our success, or we think we're frauds. A lot of people go through that. I think I might have mentioned when I wrote my book, Who's Your Mike, that I didn't even tell my family I was writing the book for the first 6 months because I was afraid I was going to fail. So you're not alone in having that feeling. So I want to just let you know that we hear you and we appreciate you telling your true story about that, because a lot of us feel the same way.
You know what's interesting though, is I've thought about this a lot because I think to myself, why is it that at that time writing was not working, but fitness was becoming so successful? This is not to say that I don't care deeply about fitness. What I've loved about it from the beginning is the ability to help people. That's a through line in my life, and that's what I hang on to. But I could be helping people in a lot of different arenas. I think part of the success with fitness is that I just didn't have an agenda. Um, I really let it flow. And I didn't think that my worth was wrapped around it. And I think that's why it kept growing. Whereas my worth at that time, without me knowing it subconsciously, was completely connected to my writing. And so that, and because I didn't understand the distinction, I think that was the overall lesson for me. But to go back, so when I decided to go back into fitness, I went fully in. I took sort of my entrepreneurial spirit and really went for it. I owned a gym. I started a product company. I created YouTube, all things that really ended up working. Definitely had their hardships, and I could go on and on and on about brick and mortar and product and the media space, all three different things that I learned some hard, true lessons. But that's what I ended up doing from there. Full circle, just to not make this too long. I ended up during COVID coming back to writing. It was a real sort of come to kit moment of what is it? What are these lessons that I've learned in my life? I feel like I had achieved everything in fitness that I could have. I mean, I truly, brands, sponsorships, all that. And I still had this feeling of I'd given up on myself. And so I started writing Isabel's Garden, my feature film, which was initially a play. I quickly realized that it wasn't a play, it was a movie. So I had to take classes and learn how to write a screenplay. From there, long story short, you can ask me more about it, but here we are. It's now being sold. I just got off a meeting with my sales agent telling me that it's starting to sell internationally, which is really nice. So it is now officially a business for me.
Listen, that is awesome. I love your story of coming back to your, not just your roots, but your passion. There's so many conversations I have with candidates in transition or entrepreneurs wanting to build something. Follow your passion, doing what you're really good at and that you have a creative genius about is going to make you happier. It's going to make you probably more successful, whether it's financial or otherwise. So congratulations on that. And congratulations on the film and the
Thank you.
awards and all the great stuff. I've seen the trailer. I haven't seen the film yet, but can you give us a description about what it is? And then I've got lots of follow-ups.
So Isabel's Garden is a very hopeful family movie. It deals with loss, but the ultimate tone is hope and love. And it's about a new stepmom who's very ambitious, and she lives in this small town, and her life kind of gets flipped upside down when she unexpectedly loses her husband. And then she's tasked with having to help raise her stepdaughter alongside his ex-wife. So it's a story about dealing with grief. It's a story about chosen family, and it's a women's story.
I love it. So I know there's more to the story. If I understand correctly, the husband in the movie is actually your husband.
Yeah, so so the movie stars Karen David, who starred on the show Fear the Walking Dead. She's a
Okay.
very prominent actress, an incredible woman. But my husband did play Diego, the husband that died. That was not the original intention. And it's also not our story. What I was intending to do with this story was, as a stepmom, every writer, let me start with this. Every writer writes from something that they know, whether it be a truth or fear or an idea or whatever. And being a stepmom, I'm so intimately connected to what that role means and also how it's perceived in the world and the stigmas around it. And being a stepmom, it's not greatly talked about, but there's this fear that you invest your entire life into a family that you are not biologically connected to. And so if the person that that connects you to the family that you've worked so hard to integrate yourself with gets removed, what happens to you and what happens to the family? And so it was that idea that I was playing with. And it kind of took on a life of its own. In my own personal life, it's a little annoying. I actually have such a great relationship with my stepdaughter's mom, Jillian. She's one of my closest friends. So this in no way is our story, but it is an amalgamation of a lot of women's stories of stepmoms I've spoken to, moms I've spoken to, and I kind of put them all together to create sort of a bigger theme, bigger lessons. Yeah.
I love it. I do want to come back to the amalgamation in just a minute because it does align with some things with my book actually. But I want to ask you this. So I'll ask the question by telling you a backstory. My purpose in life is to challenge and inspire those around me. And I have, as I said before, lots of conversations really encouraging people to follow their passion. You did it, or you're doing it. Let's say that. Tell me how you're able to lean so far into that and what really drove you. I know you talked about it a little bit, but tell me more.
That's one of the best questions that someone's ever asked me, by the way. And I didn't anticipate that question, which I love. Without knowing it, I've only realized it until recently. I think my purpose in life is to help people, but with my voice, through me as me. I've been doing it in fitness for as long as I can remember. I started to pick up on the fact that I was transcending just, working out when I created a YouTube page and I started to see the comments and the messages that I was getting from people. They were not talking about the changes in their body. I mean, yes, of course, that came every once in a while. But what they were really talking to me about was how I was actually shifting their perspectives about themselves and their lives, and then how that was helping them in other arenas. That is the thing that I hung on to more than anything. I think that has also been my through line with writing. So I think my own personal journey and what drives me is that I want to help people and heal people with my voice, whatever that means, whether it be through words, whether it is through speech, whether it's through fitness videos. I'll never give up fitness. I love it so much. And I love it so much because I love the people that I train, I think, and the people that I help. I once received an email from someone from the Middle East telling me, I won't get too into details to respect her privacy, but telling me how I helped her leave an abusive relationship. That doing workouts with me on the regular gave her the self-confidence, and through my words, hearing them regularly, she got the guts to do what was right for her. I think years of giving that messaging ultimately ended up coming back to me. I was giving it to people, but not necessarily living it myself. And so I think what ended up happening was I'm 41 now. So at 39, when I realized that I was telling people to live up to their potential, to follow their hearts and follow their dreams, and knowing deep down that I wasn't doing it myself, that was the driver for me to do the movie.
Dude, that is so powerful. First of all, you serve people through the power of your words. And then the fact that you neglected your own self in the process is so normal. And I love that you found your voice for yourself and you're serving yourself. Thank you for the inspiration.
I think it's also important for entrepreneurs to hear, I hear all the time that they just, they let go of everything they were doing before and they jumped into this brand new career. I actually have a very different strategy. I literally have 2 careers happening simultaneously that I'm having to balance. And they're both actually, one is serving the other. And it actually gives me a lot more confidence in my ability to pursue film, because I feel like I haven't just thrown everything away, all that hard work.
I feel you. I've been in professional services for almost 30 years. And now with my mega personality online, I've got tens, if not dozens of followers. It's amazing to watch the trend.
Congratulations. That's huge. Hey, you can get one person listening.
There you go. Hey, if kids watch and listening, we're in good shape. Hey, truly, I appreciate the inspiration. I do want to shift gears because we're running short on time. So I want to ask you this question. It is a question that's self-serving. So I held up my book earlier. Who's Your Mic? I know I know you've read it because we talked about it a couple of years ago when we met. The book is a amalgamation of characters from my own journey and other entrepreneurs' journeys of different employees they've had along the journey. The title character is Mike, who is your good friend who became your accountant, your controller, your CFO. You've outgrown him, and what the hell's going on? Who is your Mike is the question, and everybody's had a Mike. So the question for you is, what's your favorite character from Who's Your Mike? I know you've seen a lot during your own entrepreneurial career.
I love the bounce around Betty.
Yeah.
Yeah, bounce around Betty, because that I know that role so intimately. Because I'm the entrepreneur and because I've had to always be so scrappy, I've always had to hire a bounce around Betty. And that role is so necessary. The Betty is, I mean, a lifeline at the beginning of entrepreneurship. Where it gets tricky is when the entrepreneur starts to grow and needs to grow. And then the bounce around Betty doesn't have a specific niche of expertise that is required for growth, and things can get a little tricky. And also because at the beginning of any business, I felt this way with my brick and mortar, all this, it's almost, it's like a codependency, right? And so whose business it is really and who deserves what gets a little tricky. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I really liked that and appreciated that you identified that role and talked about it and gave some tips on how to deal.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone else out there that bounce around Betty. It takes on any and every role that you've got, and just enough to solve the problem and kind of get you to the next step. But they're not really great at the next level, and they don't have a specific role, and they're very good at the generalist roles. But once you get to needing the specialist, many times you've outgrown him or her. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for writing the book.
Well, that was a passion project in and of itself. We can go into that on another episode, I'm sure. So, but we're at the point of the show where I want to talk about your unlocking move. And again, the unlocking move is some key pivotal moment or decision point that changed the trajectory of your career or your life. There's often one or two that we can point back to, and I'm trying to inspire the next entrepreneur, the next person to find a place where they can unlock their own success.
Do you want to know from fitness or dealing with the movie?
You pick one. Pick one that you felt like was, oh my God, I needed that. That's what maybe it was a marriage. Maybe it was the girl in Dubai.
I would say the answer is betting on myself. That was the unlocking move, because here's truth with the movie. It was a very, very small budget movie, which is why it's so wild that it's getting awards and getting bought. It's so insane. I was trying to find a director for the movie, and I couldn't land a director. I was getting a lot of rejection, and I had never directed before, but I refused to give up on this movie because I just wasn't willing to give up on myself anymore. I was in a place where I wasn't taking no for an answer. I was doing something different. And when I decided to direct a movie, which is an absolutely insane idea, to have never been behind a camera, to have never gone to film school, to know nothing about lenses or continuity or what it even takes to even make a short film, and I'm jumping into directing a feature, that's absolutely insane. But I will say that the second I chose to do that, everything unlocked. Suddenly a team was coming, suddenly the actors wanted to do it. And it turns out that the reason the actors wanted to do it is because they preferred to work with the writer. So the very thing that I thought would be a hindrance was the reason that the movie was taking off.
Let's go. I love to hear that. Betting on yourself. And by the way, for people who are watching, over your right shoulder is the poster for Isabel's Garden.
And this is the thing, if you ever do my YouTube videos, this is the picture you'll see behind in all my YouTube videos that I'm doing a workout in. So this is blending my two worlds here.
Awesome. Hey, we're going to make sure we include a link to your trailer, and maybe is there a link where we can download the film or buy the film somehow?
Not yet. It's looking like it's going to start showing internationally at the end of the year, and by 2025 it will have taken off.
All right. So tell me where internationally I'll buy my next ticket to Paris or Dubai or wherever the hell it's showing.
Sounds good.
So let me ask you one more question that I know our listeners would want to hear is, can you give us 3 tips for healthy eating or 2 travel exercise tips, something really soundbitey that I can, take home with me and go do it at home? How can I be healthy in 3 easy steps? How can I work out easy in 3 easy steps?
Actually, let me give you advice for someone like myself who had to transition into writing full time and sitting full time after being always on my feet. You have to be really mindful that every 30 minutes you get up to stand and walk around. You cannot stay seated. You've got to get that blood flow going. You have to be drinking water every 30 minutes. You should be sipping water. And if you are low on energy, a really strange tip is to actually rub your ears, your earlobes, and all up and down your ears. It will immediately start to give you a little bit more energy. And then as far as
wait. Let's take that home. We got one, we get up every 30 minutes and walk a bit. Number
Yeah.
2, drink water every 30 minutes. And number 3, tickle your earlobes a little bit, rub them a little bit.
It's an energetic point. And so if you rub them with both hands, you'll see that you'll kind of have suddenly just this renewed sense of energy. It's very strange, but it works.
What are 3 or 4 exercise tips that I can go do today to become more fit?
Every day, do 10 to 15 push-ups, hold a plank for as long as you can, and then do 10 to 20 squats every day. If you want to do 3 sets, perfect. You're hitting the upper body, the mid, and the lower body, and you're taking care of yourself.
That sounds so easy, and so doable. Why don't we do it?
It's actually what I did in my writing process. I would get up every hour, do push-ups, plank, and squats, and then sit back down and start writing. And the next thing I knew, I had 3 to 5 sets a day of that. It really helped.
I love it. Thank you for that. Okay,
Yes.
so I've got one more question for you. It's a bit of a trick question, and that is, tell me one question that you're never asked, and either you're secretly glad that they don't ask you, or maybe you kind of wish they would ask you.
What do I wish that people would ask me?
Maybe.
I don't know the answer to that.
You might have already answered it when you said LA people are nice. Why don't you ever ask me that instead of everybody's always a bitch in LA? I want to hear the nice one.
No, I feel, here's what I will say. I wish people would stop asking me about my clients. That's my truth. I've never said that out loud. I can't stand it. And I get it. I get it. They are famous and they want to know their secrets and what makes them, then they secretly probably want to hear that they're unkind, which just isn't true. And they want to know the gossip, but I wouldn't be in the position I am today if I spoke about my clients. And also it really bothers me sometimes that the only reason that I am considered legitimate is because of who I train. I should be legitimate because I'm good at what I do, not because I train celebrity clients. That's my truth. I've never said that out loud.
Let's go. I love that, Kit. Hey, I'm part of the problem because I asked you the question for some drama.
It's okay. I'm so used to it. I'm so used to it.
But second, I hear you. You are good for what you do, not who you serve. Let's go. That's a man. That's a great quote. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that.
I felt the passion in your voice as you answered it. That was beautiful. All right. So, hey, on that note, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Kit, thank you so much for being with me on Unlocking Moves. Please go like and subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you consume your podcast. And we're going to have plenty of YouTube shorts and Instagram reels that come out of this. So please go like and subscribe or whatever that you do on Instagram.
Thank you so much.
I love it, Kit. Thank you so much. If you're an entrepreneur and you think you might have outgrown a member of your team, or maybe you've got a mic, as we talked about in Who's Your Mic, check out this quiz at who'syourmic.com/quiz. That's who'syourmic.com/quiz.